Very much. And out front now, Matt Schlapp, he served as political director for George W. Bush. David Gergen, who served as presidential advisor for 4 presidents, including Reagan and Clinton. And Dana Bash, our chief political correspondent, as well as Jamie Gangel, our special correspondent, who knows the Bush family better than anyone, has interviewed all of them many, many times. All right, David, let me start with you. George W. Bush took a few swipes at Donald Trump. He didn't mention him by name, but it was very clear what he was saying. Here's another one.
Jeb's a man of humble, deep, and genuine faith. Faith that reveals itself through good works, not loud words. I think you should look for someone whose humility helps him understand what he doesn't know and surrounds himself with people who do know what he doesn't know.
Is that effective, David Gergen?
I think it is. He made a very strong speech, back to back. They looked terrific, and you know, they made their points against Trump. And I think this was really more positive about Jeb and what his virtues are as a candidate. I think the big question coming out of this era, and it's very late, he's got to finish third in South Carolina. Right now, he's not running third. And the question is, can George W., along with the mom, especially George W., now give a jolt to the Bush campaign, get him up to third, make him much more competitive? If he does that, it's been a huge success tonight.
So Matt, you know, I guess there's a positive and a negative in what I'm about to say, but you just heard Athena reporting that there were more people at this rally than have been at any Jeb rally to this point. All right, that's good. He's getting more people engaged, but it's bad in that it took his brother, the former president, to actually crowds to come out. I mean, is that going to translate into votes, or is this just, okay, now there's a celebrity with President Bush showing up?
Look, there's nothing like a president or former president on the campaign trail, and George W. Bush has been sorely missed by the party, and I think this gives his brother a big boost. I don't know what the downside is. He has to deal with the fact that he's a Bush already. He has to deal with those critics already, and now he's getting some of the positive. He's going to get crowds. He's going to get excitement. He's going to get people that are reminded that George Bush kept us safe and George Bush had security policies that were good for the country. That's all a win for Jeb.
So the other thing, of course, that came up was 9/11. And we know Donald Trump brought this up this weekend, and the jury is still out whether it helped or hurt him, Jamie. But he brought up 9/11. He brought up weapons of mass destruction. He brought up the parts of the Bush legacy that can be so problematic. And I guess the question is, Jamie, is this going to help Jeb or not, that he has to be tied to relitigate and defend his brother's legacy?
Right. So this has been going on for quite some time with Donald Trump, where he will say these things and people will think that he is imploding when he says them, and then his supporters stick with him. Mm-hmm. I think that none of this about George Bush's legacy is new to Jeb, so I'm not sure whether that is going to be a problem. I think the real question is, look, the speech we saw Jeb give today is the best speech we've seen him give on the campaign trail. Will there be traction now? Is there enough time between now and Saturday? I will predict this. Common sense dictates that I believe every day this week going into Saturday, the Bush campaign has something planned to try to keep this momentum going. The question is it going to be enough?
And Dana, is it going to be enough? And also, while he is a wildly popular ex-president with an 88% approval rating among Republicans, 52% among the general population, does it help to have someone who's it's a backwards-looking thing? It's like Bill Clinton, right? Hillary Clinton's desperately, she wants to use him, but she wants to move forward. Same with Jeb Bush. He has struggled so much to define himself in this campaign. Does it help to now say, well, I'll go even more into the shadow of my brother?
Yes, because he was already in the shadow of his brother, whether he likes it or not, and he understands that. And just like you said, it's that popularity among Republicans that matters right now and nothing else. And you mentioned 88%. I was talking to a Bush campaign source earlier today who said that they think it's even higher than that in South Carolina. And the fact that George W. Bush took so many not so veiled swipes at Donald Trump in that speech, and did it the way Jeb Bush has been doing it much more overtly, about the idea that you don't want somebody who is blustered, you don't want somebody who is inflaming the frustrations of Americans, on and on and on, is a reminder both in words and just in symbolism that we know how to do this, guys, Republican voters. We're Bushes. We get it. You know, I know that this other guy sounds really enticing and interesting, and he's different, but this is who we are. Come back home, basically, is what he was saying.
He also reminded people of sort of who he's been, something I know, Jamie, you've seen in so many interviews. But here is the side of George W. Bush that the American public hasn't seen in a long time. In fact, a side that many people find very endearing.
Right, and there's also been...
We're spending a lot of time on our ranch where we've become tree farmers. It gives me a chance to my stump speech. I've written 2 books, which has surprised a lot of people, particularly up east, who didn't think I could read, much less write. I've been one to defy expectations. I've been misunderestimated most of my life. And as a real shock to people, I've become an oil painter. But let me assure you, I know that the signature's worth more than the painting.
I mean, you got to give the guy credit. Misunderestimated, the jokes that he's able to make to be so self-deprecating, Jamie.
That is classic George W. Bush. I will also say that you notice he mentioned Governor Nikki Haley in the speech, and thank goodness that her parents were able to immigrate to the country. That was not an accident. Her phone has been ringing off the hook. Everyone would like her endorsement. Her approval rating is 80% now in South Carolina. She has said every day that she's thinking about who she's going to endorse. She's taking a hard look at it. Former President Bush and Laura Bush met with her and her family today, and there was some lobbying, I am sure, that went on. And again, it was no accident she was mentioned in the speech.
And a bottom line, Matt, to you, do you think he can pull out that third or better finish to continue with just a few days?
I think this race is a very fluid race. Donald Trump is clearly our front runner, and he's pretty stout in these polls. But I think people are, they're going back and forth. We saw in the last 2 states that there are a lot of undecided voters. I think there's a lot of undecided voters going into this race. South Carolina, and I think Jeb Bush is in the mix, and he helped himself tonight.
And Aaron, can I just add one thing that it's going to sound very superficial, but it matters a lot. A big problem for Jeb Bush has been imagery, that he just hasn't kind of looked comfortable. He looked more comfortable tonight, and there was one thing missing,
his glasses.
Right. They were gone, and it made him look different, and he almost looked more comfortable in his skin. Unclear if that has something to do with the glasses. I was just texting one of his top aides saying, where'd they go? And the response was, poof. So they're working on it. They're doing whatever they need to do.
That's a pretty interesting thing to notice. And you know what? Sometimes something that is superficial can make a very substantive difference.